I think that the economy is beginning to recover from the recession that we had, and we've had 5 quarters of positive growth, and growth estimates for this year are in the region of about 2.1%, which, if you remember that we at some stage had fallen to minus 2.2%, is actually an absolute increase in growth of about 4%. But the growth still needs to be deepened, and it needs to be ramped up. And I do believe that going forward, as the investments in infrastructure, in agriculture, and in other key sectors of the economy, like manufacturing, come into force, we will see even greater improvements in economic growth next year.
Now, earlier, your presentation did center largely on the economic recovery and grace plan, among other factors. I'd like you to bring us up to speed as a member of the inner circle on where we are at this time with implementation of the ERGP.
Thank you very much. The ERGP basically had 3 main pillars. The first was to restore growth. The second was to build a globally competitive economy. And the third was to invest in the Nigerian people. With regard to restoring growth, the first objective was restoring macroeconomic balances. And you would agree with me that be it the exchange rate, which has stabilized, be it reserves, which have risen from a low of about $28 billion to about 48 2-3 months ago, now down to 42. We've had improvement in that as well. We've had general improvement, so growth, inflation ticking down from 18.7 to about leveling up at about 11.3%. So there have been improvements in the macroeconomic area, but there's also been improvements in the real economy. The investments in agriculture, in rice, the investments in agro-processing, in rice mills, the resuscitation of fertilizer plants to help boost the agricultural sector begin to show impact in the real sector. The same thing, we've had good outcomes with regard to mining, and the services sector, the telecom sector has been doing well, and I do believe going forward the entertainment sector will contribute. Manufacturing has also picked up with a resolution of the constraints on foreign exchange, and by and large I think that we are in the right direction, and what we now need is a bit more momentum.
You did hint at the need for the government to leverage on the private sector. To what extent do you think that the current administration has been able to harness potentialities from that area?
Oh, I think extensively, and that's the point I was making during the session, is that the government had, from the very onset, looked at the ways and means by which it could draw on the strengths of the private sector. And it's done this in several instances. One of the instances in which it has done so is to partner with the private sector, even just arranging the business environment. In other words, drawing up the plan, looking at industrial policy through the Industrial Policy and Advisory Competitiveness Council, through the quarterly business forum to get feedback on what areas of continued concern to the private sector, through drawing on private sector expertise in many of the instances to reach desired solutions, even beginning now to move to partnerships with the private sector around the delivery of some infrastructure projects. And indeed, going forward, we would see a bit more activity around the privatization now that the National Council for Privatization is up and running.
So what key trends would you say would shape Nigeria's economy come 2019?
There's no doubt that the first, given the fact that the move away from oil in terms of dependence on revenue and foreign exchange will take a bit of time. But to the extent that the non-oil sector is contributing about 13% to growth, which it hadn't done in a while, it's a good sign that the non-oil sector, certainly I can see potential in agriculture, I can see potential from the construction sector as we move on to the Family Homes Fund. I think now that the constraints on forex have been resolved, the manufacturing sector itself will pick up, and you can see from the purchasing manager indices that it's in positive territory, which is a positive sign of some business confidence going forward. So I think that 2019 we would see a slow but steady improvement in economic conditions, and that the impact of the infrastructural investments will kick in and help to reduce costs and improve the business environment, in addition to, of course, the changes around the ease of doing business, which were globally recognized last year.